Hi, this is Mary coming to you from Charlotte So Natural. Today we are going to come into your homes and show you how to do your Kim Diehl project. Going to be a little bit different this time because when you come and see us here and pick up your kits, you usually are handed your pattern and you'll have your pattern to follow along with. Today you will be getting your pattern with your kit. The kits we have here in the shop. Several of them we already mailed to you, but if you want to, you can give us a call, give us a credit card, and pick up the curb at the curb, not pick up the curb, at the curb. We'll run it out to your car, or you can give us a call and a credit card and we can mail it to you. I think the basic mailing would be $7.95. If I can do it for less, I will. But the basic, I would think, would be pretty much $7.95. So today our kit project is Farmer's Market, and it is, I believe, our fourth one. And this actually, here's a picture of it. It finishes out 20 by 20. Mine actually finishes 20 and a half by 20 and a half. Grew a little bit as I was going through it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the techniques that I use. I always try to do the most time-saving. I do a lot of projects, and if there's a faster way to do it, I'll try to figure it out. Last month that we did, and only because of the way it's done, is the fact that I recommended, or many of you did buy, Primitive Gatherings 1-inch triangle paper. And the kits have 5-inch squares of the cream colored, 8 cream colored in them. So that works perfect for your 5-inch square to use the triangle paper. And the fact that you actually keep 4 of the same color together. Usually the Kim does a lot of scrappy look. So it doesn't work well to use the papers. But this time the papers work fantastic because, as you can see, we are keeping sets of 4 together. The only disadvantage of this is the fact that when you use the papers, you're going to get 2 sets of 4, but I figure we're going to use them anyway. Plus, you may want a little bit more option to do a little bit of color selection because it's very, very random, and I always have to say random is not easy to do. So I have actually recommended the Primitive Gathering that is designed for charm squares. So the idea of using the charm squares is you take a light, and this one here is not exactly a 5-inch square, somehow or another didn't get cut exactly right. And then you cut a 5-inch square of, I think you have 19 different pieces in your kit, and you put the light one on top and the colored one on the bottom. And then you're going to sew around, and there's arrows. You'll sew around the inside or outside, whichever way you want to start. And I do it continuously. I think I usually start around the outside, and you sew on the dotted line, following the arrow around. And then I just travel in, and then I go around and do the inside, and then you're finished on that. And this little, I had a rotary cutter. Here's my rotary cutter. I hope all of you have the little 2.5 by 6.5 inch ruler. This one actually is one that Charlotte So Natural sells, and it has our name on it. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut on the dark line. So I stitched on the dotted line, and for this one you're only going to actually use half of it. So I just went ahead and put the other half aside for another project somewhere down the line. And I'm going to go ahead and cut on the solid line using my little ruler. And just bop the excess fabric off. And then you're going to go ahead and cut each one down the center. And this is actually, some people call it a form of paper piecing, whichever, but it is accurate. And when you're doing little things like this, if you've done very many Kim Diehl projects or anything that's the miniatures, you know that it needs to be accurate. And by placing that light fabric on the top next to your paper and the dark companion piece on the bottom, it'll automatically press to the dark. So I basically just finger pressed all of them as I go through. Finger press, and then I just nipped off the extra little points here. And then you just take, to pop the paper, you just hold on to the seam allowance area and just pop it. And then I went ahead, and you can see over here that I have cut, and I believe you need 20 squares. So you need 20 different fabrics that go into this. And then of the remaining fabrics, after you do your half square triangles, and you will have extra if you use this method. Otherwise, follow the method on the pattern, which she's cutting, I believe, a 1 7/8, cutting them in half, sewing them together, and then pressing them open that way. And doing that, whichever technique works the best for you. I just found this is very, very accurate by using the papers to keep it right. And here you see I've gone ahead and laid out my pairs of 4, here, 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 and then I just randomly cut all of the additional companion prints that go with it, and then I just layered them all up. I went ahead and matched all the colors, so I laid out all my half square triangles. And then you're going to go ahead, these are 1.5 inch squares that you're going to be cutting. And when you cut those 1.5 inch squares, and I just had a whole stack of them, and went ahead and color coordinated them a little bit. Here again, like I said, random is not easy in doing that. And I did lay them all out and kind of tweak them to make sure I didn't have. So basically, you'll have one of the colors in the 3, plus then you'll turn around and then you'll have one of them in the 2. So there's 3 1.5 inch squares down the center between each one, and then you'll do it doesn't have to coordinate, just really random, very, very random in doing that. And then I lay them all out as you see, and I actually thought it was easier because I'm going to show you a technique on how I sewed them together, which was very fast. I chain pieced these all together. So I found it worked best to have them all laying in the same direction in making that work. So then I had this laying beside my machine. I'm trying to see which one I started. This one. And you'll go ahead and you'll start by laying this one on top, dop, 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 dop. And you'll chain piece those through so it looks like this when you chain piece them through. So I just finger press them open. So when I went through my sewing machine, I chain pieced them 1, 1, 1, 1, and then I started with the next square and then the next set. So I chain piece them together like this as they're laying, and then if you take the lower one and you just rotate it up like this, and then you'll have to start from the bottom, and you'll take this one and lay it on top. And actually, I think it goes over here. You lay it over here, and you'll take this one, and it'll go, and make sure that you end up with that parallelogram that looks like this. Otherwise, your points will not be the same. And then I'll come, and you'll take and lay this one on top, and you'll sew from here on down. And when you're finished sewing that, it'll be all together looking like this. And that's exactly how, and I didn't take this and press it, I just finger pressed it. So you can go through and do all 20 of them at one time, but I would recommend you do the first one, make sure you have it right, make sure your 1/4 inch is right in doing that. And so after you get them all chained, or do the one first, and then you'll just flop this one over. They'll nest nicely. They're all connected in the order upon which they're supposed to be. Do your 1/4 inch here, flip that one up, and I would chain piece those all together too, that you've had them all laying together. And then as you come back again, you'll flip this one up, and you'll stitch this way, and your block will be perfectly aligned, and this should measure 3.5 inches exactly 3.5 inches in doing that. And then I took all my units that I had created, And let's see, 4 times 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 is what there is. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut your sashings. Now, I am a lengthwise grain guru. Anybody that has taken a class from me know that anytime possible I will cut lengthwise grain. It is the most stable grain, and actually with this design, because it's definitely a pattern in this sashing fabric. So I cut it to where I had it centered exactly 1 inch, and then I'll take back, and hopefully you all know that I like to, and it's, well, here, I'll demonstrate it this way. And my ruler isn't, but I'm going to cut 3.5, so, and I can't do it with that ruler. So 3.5, I like to be able to cut and then move back in doing that. If you don't understand that, give the shop a call. Sorry, I don't have my right ruler to do it with. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to cut this lengthwise grain. I believe the kit has a 1/2 yard of it, so you have plenty, because it's also your binding that you're going to do. So you have a 1/2 yard, you cut them 1.5 inches. Oh no, 1.5 inches wide, I think. No, it's 1 inch, sorry. That sashing is 1 inch, not 1.5 inches. And then you're going to go ahead, and each one is going to have, and I did lay them all the same direction. So it just depends upon how precise you want to be and whether it makes a difference. It's all really kind of busy, so it's not going to make. So all mine are going the same direction in that. And you're going to piece together in between each one, and you can chain piece that together through. Also, you do all those. And then you create a sashing that goes in between each one with 1.5 inches, as I have it illustrated here. So you're going to do 1 inch, not inch, it's 1 inch, not 1.5 inches. It's 1 inch, and you're going to create these in between. So there'll be 3 1-inch squares in the sashing areas to put that together. So when you get that set, I did go ahead and measure what mine ended up, and it ended up, I think, 16.25. Mine was 1/4 of an inch too big. So when I cut my outside sashings, which you actually create, you cut your border piece 3.5, 3 inch. Let me look for sure. Hopefully you'll have your pattern in front of you in doing that. It's a 3 inch. So your burgundy is a 3 inch by 14. So I did mine 14.25 because I grew just a little bit in here, and went ahead and you create this unit, cut it to exactly what your finished size plus seam allowance of your units that you created in the center. So as you see here, you're going to put 2 of them on top and bottom, and then you're going to add your squares on the edge of this border unit and create your finished size here. And I did quilt. I have just a plain old domestic machine, and I like to do a lot with the monofilament thread. We carry the Harriet Hargraves monofilament thread, and I basically stitched in the ditch, and then I have ordered in some new narrow borders that actually work very, very well with Diehl. And so this is just 2 of our new ones. We've got a cable and a couple of others. And I actually used this one and worked out perfect because I kind of lined it up. I didn't use the whole thing. I just used this part of it. And I did use matching thread here, but the rest of it I did stitch in the ditch with the monofilament thread. And then I just usually match my backing color thread to that. This is actually a brand new Diehl backing that we have just gotten in this week, and if you get a yard of it, you've got enough for probably just about all of your projects in doing that and making it work. And the little surprise in your kit will actually be, this time I won't be able to see whether or not you finished your last month's quilt that I've been giving, and I think it was Esther's Garden is the one we did last with the applique in the middle, and I don't know, oh, here it is. This is last month's. That was last month's project that we did, and many of you may have it finished, and I was doing the incentive that if you finished your block, your mini quilt, and brought it to class, that you would get a free label to put on the back. I don't have a label on that one. Let me see if there's a label on this one. No label. Label. Label, label, label. Label. Yeah. So these are actually what we have done. So, oh, here, my label's ready to go on that one. So I've been giving the incentive, if you bring your quilt, little mini quilt back to class finished, I give you a label. That's one thing that we oftentimes fail to get finished when we finish a project. And I have many of these at my house, and very few are labeled. So I thought it was a wonderful way of getting labels put on the mini quilts that you finish. So I have created the labels. I will, because of the circumstances, I will give you last month's and this month's label in your quilt kit that you will either call us and have us ship it to you, or we will actually deliver it to you at the curb. So hopefully you have fun. This is just a really easy one to do. Last month's was a little bit more difficult because of the applique. But making the pinwheels, this is the one that we actually used the papers for last month, because here again, you needed 4 of the identical colored pinwheel half square triangles. So the paper worked fantastic, and we do have some of them in stock. So give us a call, and wish you all a very happy Easter. Thank you.